This video will be looking at the possible modes of inheritance of the Fire Nation family tree using this pedigree, in which we're focused on the power-motivated behaviors of shaded individuals. So starting with X-linked dominant, we'll go ahead and fill in all of our affected males, knowing that they must be X big A Y. Then looking at Sozan's wife, we know that she must be homozygous recessive in order to be unaffected by the trait. However, looking at her pedigree, we know that this does not make sense considering that Azulon must get his X chromosome from his mother. So this is not a possible mode of inheritance. Moving on to X-linked recessive, we'll once again fill in all of the affected males, this time with an X little a. Because it's a recessive trait, we can go ahead and fill in Azula's as well, knowing that she must be homozygous in order for it to be expressed. We can fill in the rest of the unaffected males with the big A allele and then focus on the females. Looking at Ursa, we know she must be heterozygous in order to pass on the X chromosomes to Azula and Zuko. As for Rena and Tommen, they have at least one X big A chromosome, but we're not too concerned about the second one. Looking at Isla, we can use the same logic we used to Ursa, knowing that she's heterozygous. And lastly, for Sozan's wife, we know that she must be a carrier in order to pass on that little A allele to Azulon. So this is a possible mode. Onto autosomal dominant, we'll take a slightly different approach where, because we're no longer constricted by the sex chromosomes, we know all the unaffected individuals must be homozygous recessive. So we'll fill those all in and then work our way up the tree. So looking at Azula, she must be heterozygous because she has an affected and unaffected parent. So we can use the same logic for Ozai and Azulon. As for Sozin, he must have at least one big A allele in order to be affected, however, not too concerned about the second one. As for Jinzuk, he must be heterozygous as well in order to pass that little A allele on to Ursa. So this is, once again, a possible mode of inheritance. Onto autosomal recessive, we'll go ahead and fill in all of the homozygous recessive traits again, and then work our way down the tree, starting with Sozan's wife. We see that she must be heterozygous in order to pass on that little A allele to Azulon. We can use the same logic to Isla. As for Iroh, we see that he must be heterozygous as he has to get this little A from Azulon. Luten will have at least one big A allele from Iroh, but we're not too concerned about the second one. Zuko will also be heterozygous for the same reason as Iroh. He must get that from Ozai. For Ursa, she must also be heterozygous in order to donate that second A to Azula. As for Reno, Roku, and Tommen, we know that they will have at least one big A allele in order to be unaffected. However, we're not too concerned about the second one. Lastly, looking at the Y-linked mode, we'll go ahead and fill in all of the affected males. This time, our affected allele is on the Y chromosome, so it should only affect males. However, if we go down, we see Azula is affected, but she only has X chromosomes, so that should not be possible, and thus this is not a possible mode of inheritance.